For most people, the second act just tears them up. But you know why? They never ask themselves, what am I going to physically watch them do to try to reach their goal? So then they just have the characters doing all kinds of stuff. But is that getting you closer to reach your goal? Or is it just stuff? Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the difference between activity and actually having an active protagonist. Okay. An active protagonist is doing things that gets them closer to their goal. You had 7 up here, right? Their goal is to find this serial killer, right? They can't do that if they're just sitting at home eating snacks. I have to see them going to the crime scene, going to the library to do research, going to interview people. That is the action. That makes them active. And so in a drama, it might be a little harder. Well, obviously that's a drama, but it's more procedural, right? Because it's whodunit. And so in a whodunit, it's very easy to know what your action is supposed to be. It's an investigation. You got to have them investigate. When it's not a procedural in that way, it becomes a little harder. So that's why you have to do that work early on and say, how can I externalize what they're trying to do? If this person is trying to get rid of their grief, what are the steps that they take to do that? How are they actively trying to get rid of their grief? And then what's getting in the way of them doing it, right? Because that's the complication. And I call it complication instead of conflict, because when people think of conflict, they think of, let me just throw anything bad in there. But if you think of complication, a complication hinders you from reaching your goal. If the conflict does not directly affect me reaching my goal, it's not conflict. It's just something negative. So for example, if my goal is to pick up a cake from a bakery and there's a bomb in a building on the left and that building blows up, but my car can go around and get to the bakery, that's not a complication for me. People died, but those are not our characters, so do we care? No. We are in the car going to get a cake. That building over there blowing up got nothing to do with me. Now, if I'm a first responder and it's my day off and I'm supposed to be picking up a cake and the building goes off, building blows up, I gotta pull over and go in and help. Now it's a complication, but that's because of who you decided to make the character be, not because a bomb went off. And so that's why I explain it as complications instead of just conflict. Complications hinder me from getting where I'm trying to go, which takes you to the midpoint, which a lot of people have a hard time with, and I understand it. But I try to look at the second act as 2 different parts. One side of the second act is trial and error. How am I trying to get there? What's getting in my way? How am I trying to get there? What's getting in my way? The other side of the midpoint is take me up to the climax. So the midpoint is this big moment that shakes up the monotony of the trial and error and forces change. Whether that means I'm gonna hit my rock bottom and somebody's gotta motivate me to keep going, or that means I thought I won, false victory, and then I realized, nope, there's still more to do, or the goal changes, or, you know, 2 of the examples that I give, one of them is morbid, but just go with me. If my protagonist is a mom who was searching for her kidnapped child, and at the midpoint she finds out her child is no longer alive, the story is not over, but her goal is going to change. She can no longer look for her child. She found out her child is no longer alive. So what's she gonna do for the rest of the movie? Look for the bad guy, right? That midpoint is what changed it. What was happening before that midpoint is try to find my daughter, try to find my daughter, try to find my daughter, blockage, 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 complication, 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 until daughter's not here anymore. I failed.
So that's the midpoint.
Right, that's the midpoint.
Okay.
Rock bottom, right? And then realize, wait, vengeance can still be mine. Depending upon the movie, she's looking for the bad guy to kill him. Maybe she's looking for the bad guy for justice. We don't know, because we don't know what movie we're writing, right? Yes. But that's an example. Another example of the midpoint, let's go back to Marvel, is to think of ENDGAME, right? So we're in ENDGAME. We did our trial and error, which was go locate the stones. That's the trial and error. We had our complications, right? Loki ended up with one of them. So now I got to go back somewhere else and try to get some more pins, which also I can get a stone. But if I jack that up, we're done, right? Complications, right? All of them make it back except for somebody. I'm not going to say it. Maybe you guys haven't seen it yet. I won't spoil it for you. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing with your life? But they make it back. They put on the glove. Snap. Birds start chirping. The phone starts ringing. Victory! And then boom, here comes Thanos. That's our midpoint. Because we reached our goal. The goal was bring everybody back. We reached it. But that happened in the middle of the movie. It stopped our trial and error. We're no longer searching for the stones. We have all of the stones. We brought everyone back. Everything's good. Boom. Now, everything that happens on the other side of boom is taking us to the climax, which is this 20-minute fight sequence, right? So that they can then live. And then they hit their rock bottom, and we have to do this part, right? They hit their rock bottom because it's just Captain America. Everybody's down, right? Everybody's down. Thanos is like sitting down. He didn't even care. He's not even trying to lift a finger. He's like, I'm winning this. Like, it's just you and me and my people, right? And then what do we hear? On your left. And now we can all fight together and in the movie. So understanding that midpoint, understanding what redirects you to start going up towards the climax, because we learned that 3-act structure looks like this, right? And so that midpoint can take us down. It could be a false victory, but then it's going to go down. And then now you got to climb up to that climax. And the function of the climax is that's where you reach your goal or not. That's where you win or lose. It's easy to understand the climax in an action film because that's when the good guy and the bad guy fight. That's the climax. Not the first time they fight and the good guy loses and then has to, like if you look at Creed, right, gonna have a boxing match and he's gonna lose. But the movie's not over. We'll get to the climax where he actually does the actual boxing match and he wins. So that's the climax. It's a little harder when it's a drama, right? Because you're like, what goal are they trying to achieve? That's how I know I'm at my climax, because they're achieving it. They're face on with whatever the problem was. If the problem was I need to be able to stand up to my mom, at the climax, we're standing up to mom, right? We're doing it. And then the resolution is the fallout of the climax. It's what happens now that you have reached your goal or solved your problem. If it's an action thriller, the movie's probably over. We kill the bad guy, we hear the sirens in the back, and the credits start running. We don't have to show anything else. Okay. If it's something that's a little bigger, then we might want to show, where these people are now, which I like to call the new normal, because it's in opposition of what the normal was. You showed us what their life was like, then it got crashed into by the inciting incident. So what does it look like now that they've reached the goal or solved the problem or gone on the journey? That's also the place where you can show their character arc. What did they learn? Who did they become because of this journey? You get to see that in the resolution. So understanding the function of 3-act structure is the thing that's going to help you to write 3-act structure.
What are your thoughts on building up a secondary character in their story and their plot? Is that necessary for a 2-hour movie, or should we just should writers stick with that with TV shows?
It depends on the film, but for the most part, if I have 2 hours, I have time to follow more than one person. Okay. The thing that people need to understand about any secondary storylines is this is the protagonist's story, period. So whoever this other character is that you're showing me, and they have their own goals and all that kind of stuff, it eventually has to run into what the protagonist is doing. It eventually has to help or hurt what the protagonist is doing. Because it's not, if not, it's another movie. That's a different script. But if you have 2 people doing this, they're not in the same movie. They both got their own things going on. At some point, if this is the protagonist, this thing has to turn. They have to, you know what I mean? They have to be intertwining, because I'm here to watch the protagonist figure out something. And so if you're gonna have any secondary, tertiary, however many storylines you have, that's fine. You can have as many as you want, as long as the reason I'm watching, so if I'm the protagonist and you're one of the other characters and you have your own storyline, as long as at some point you affect me, we're good. If not, then you're your own story, and you should get your shine. You shouldn't be in my story taking my shine. You should be in yours having your own.
And that's it. Want more content? Like, subscribe, and for notifications. Get notes on your script that get you unstuck at www.theprofessionalpen.com. I'm out.